We won't have a commercial season this year because there's no fish. Because the river was low and too warm and they can't spawn and they can't be the right size to come home. So there won't be any this year. The solution is to fix the problem you caused. We caused it, people caused it.
Right now, mussel beds are being depleted. Right now, seaweed patches are disappearing. Right now, candlefish aren't coming back up our river. And right now, we are not going to have a commercial season for our people. And our people depend on that. Food sovereignty isn't just about what we put in our body. Food sovereignty is what we need to survive.
When the federal government shut down, there were tribes that were receiving 100% of their food through federal food aid. And when the government shut down, that food aid shut down. And so we had tribes that were completely cut off from their food supply, 100% cut off, for weeks. And I think that really was one of the sparks of why food sovereignty really jumped to the forefront of everyone's mind, was realizing, whoa, all of a sudden we might starve on this land that we're not growing anything on.
Food sovereignty is having the control over the food that you eat, not having to worry about whether you have enough. And it's also being able to be proud of what you're eating and what you're giving your family and the means by which you're acquiring it. There's a whole lot of issues, and they have to do with control of the land. A reservation is someone telling us where we are supposed to be, and then we're supposed to stay in that area. No, we don't need a reservation. We have our own territory.
Federal policies, laws, ordinances dictate land management practices on the national forest. Well, 1 million plus acres of the national forest happens to be our Aboriginal territory. That's where our food comes from.
For a long time it was just survive, run, hide, survive. Because at first there was the invasion, then you have them coming in and killing people, then you have smallpox, they bring in liquor, then you have indentured slaves, so they took so many of the children to be slaves, then you have the boarding schools. So the way that people counteracted that was to run and hide. You know, you couldn't have ceremony because it was outlawed. You couldn't speak the language because it was outlawed. These things happen, but then you have to go, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? We've got a lot of our ceremonies back, and more people are speaking the language, especially the young people.
I don't want my kids to grow up being ashamed of who they are. They should have real choices about living the kind of life they want to live and feeding themselves and their families.
When that link between understanding why land is so important in a ceremonial sense and youth connecting to the land, when that doesn't exist, there's an element missing. So it's really important to help youth reconnect to land in that very ceremonial, spiritual way.
When I get chased by fish and game for collecting mussels on my ancestral territory, that is oppression. When I can't go to harvest stuff I need for my ceremony to live freely and celebrate my life here as an indigenous being and take part in the ceremonies and customs of my people, that is oppression.
We have our inherent rights of fishing, hunting, gathering, and we will exercise those exactly in the face of having problems with the government.
So we're, by definite example, resilient peoples. Part of food sovereignty is taking that action into your own hands and exercising your right to feed yourself by any means necessary. That's a call to action for us to push back and create our own food sovereignty codes so that we don't have to be oppressed by that system.
This place, it's sort of genetically in us. I think we're not going to walk away from this. I don't see very many of us walking away from it. I really don't.